good with whatever you guys want to do, man.
Let's let us.
Yeah, you gotta head out, bro. Go.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
good.
got it.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'll do it on the way home. Just email and text if you want it. I'll do both.
Some structures here that we've casted some prints. Here's a double arch. Paul and Barry and I here on 12, 13, 14. And we've casted 2 prints, about 14 inches by 7 inches. Or 14 by 5 inches, I think. So, I'm here on the Omaha Reservation, Nebraska, off the Missouri River. Here, not too far from where we just were. Very intricate. Some different areas for the DNA, and we're able to start to validate a lot of this research that we've been doing for a long time.
Right on, brother. Well, before we run out of time, let's get on to Rez Squatching here. You know, you've mentioned them a bunch of times, and you've been out with them a lot of times, and regularly over there doing some research with them. We're going to have Barry on the show here too. So get us up to speed on what's been going on with the Rez Squatchers.
Well, Barry, he is just amazing. It's always great to get out with him, and he speaks the Omaha language. And one of the things that we do know, even through Janice Carter had mentioned this about her father interacting with Bigfoot, that the Native American language was used. He had spoke like 6 different dialects, Janice Carter's father did, and that language that the Sasquatch speak is a variation of some ancient Indian Native American language. And so I know when Barry communicates with them, they understand that. And depending on what region of the country you're in, whether you're speaking Cherokee or you're speaking the Sioux language. My guess is they understand that language because of previous interactions. Some of it, again, through I think these epochs of contagions may have broke some of that down, but I'm almost positive some of their language still would reflect that in these regions that they're living in, and they seem to be quite aware of that when you're communicating with them. So it's very unique. I think people need to spend some time on a reservation. If they're into this research, they need to get connected to a reservation and support the Native American researchers, because they're really pioneering a lot of this interaction. So Barry we've just had all kinds of, I've had amazing experiences. Barry and I over the years have gone out, and we really call each other our brother anymore. Last year, I gave him a walking stick after we had our experience with Sea Tonga, with the cloaking that we experienced. I gave him a walking stick that my uncle had made a year prior to that. So it was almost foreshadowing this cloaking thing. It's a black stick, walking stick with a face on it. And I called it the cloaking Sea Tonga stick. And then I have one here in Lincoln that's a Bigfoot one that represents, I think, the day. And this black one kind of represents the night. And so I gave it to Barry, and we feel a level of attachment to each other like a brother, and he's told this to me many times. So I feel the same way to him. He's told me, I know you don't have a brother, but you have one now. So I just feel very blessed to have our relationship. This is over the years, we've had amazing experiences together. We've been bluff charged from the river, and we've had them touch us in the tent where we've been at up in Camp Hard Knocks, and we've just had a ton of things go on that has really kept us together as friends. That when you get through those situations, you can't even relate to other people. Can't relate to that unless you've been through that with that person. So it's just been amazing over the years. Some of the stuff I guess I wanted to talk about, because I sent you some pictures of one of the pictures that I hope you can show people. It's actually a trail that was being built, and then there's a teepee type structure, and underneath this teepee type structure in the trail, they had originally put a little fire pit that they were going to build, and this was at this abandoned house that is along an alfalfa field where Barry and I had an interaction with the red-haired Sea Tonga there. And I'll tell you that interaction, how that unfolded. But the pictures that you could show, it's interesting. So there's some indication that when they build a structure like this, it's almost like they came in, and Barry's brother, I think D, had built, he wanted to make a fire pit. So he'd cut the grass down and everything and made a trail, and then put a little fire pit area where he was going to have people go spend the night there. And the next day they came back, and this teepee structure was over top of that. So it's very fascinating. So, but my take from that was, the more I talked to people like Janice Carter, is that each one of those branches of that teepee probably represented something of that clan living there. And so there may have been a reflection of how many people were living there, how many of the Sasquatches lived in that particular area, that this is their family home, and that they don't want a fire pit here because they built it right over top of that fire pit. So I think the pictures I sent you, there's Tina standing next to it, and you'll see it when you open those up. Hopefully you'll have those for the people. But if not, then I'll just tell the story as it happened with the sighting that I had with Barry. This was probably, I can't remember the year for sure, maybe 2014. It's hard to believe how the years go by.
It seems to get faster as you get older, huh?
It absolutely does. And, I just, again, I've been going up to the Omaha reservation for almost 10 years now. So it doesn't seem like it's been that long ago, but this would have been like July of 2014. And we had done, there was an abandoned house along this alfalfa field. And I think I had told this story before, but what I wanted to share another little detail when I was talking to Barry about it that I thought was cool. We had pulled up in a pickup, and the headlights had shown just outside of this timber that was there, and something was crouched down. And as the headlights hit it, it was just at the end of the headlights. It was probably 20 or 30 yards from us. This Seatong got turned and stepped into the timber. And when I saw it right away, I had seen a lot of deer run out in front of us that night. The deer were very active. And, deer have very sleek looking hair. Well, this was red hair. It was matted, very matted, almost like dreadlocks. And it was, you could tell it was very unkept. It was probably 8 inches long or more. And that immediately caught my attention. I believe it was squatting. It stood and turned to its left and then stepped up. So I saw probably the leg, part of the arm, and the side of it. But there was very long, this red matted hair. And so that was kind of, in itself, was a little disturbing. So what do? We get out and say, hey, I said, I just saw that. Did you see that, Barry? He goes, yep, I saw it too. So let's go up in the woods and go take a look at it.
Yeah,
see if
sure,
we can get
why
an
not?
interaction. Yeah, why not? So we saw that. Let's go check it out. So we go in there, and we had scouted that area earlier in the day, and there was a large structure that had 2 trees that were intertwined together. And we were standing underneath these 2 trees. We called it the living room because it was just obviously it was some sort of huge tree structure. And as we're standing there, we're trying to have interactions with it. The whole tree, both trees start moving, start shaking. And we're like, what in the heck is going on here? So we were very freaked out about that. It's time to go. We don't want these trees, to crush us. So we go to walk out of there, and we're still trying to interact with it. But as soon as we're walking down this trail, dirt is thrown in the air, and it's like all around us, this big, like a bunch of just dirt and dust in the air. So we were basically, they threw dirt at us too, to kick us out of his living room or his home. So we left that knowing, thank God, that we had God with us, or that we had a presence of the Holy Spirit, because we really feel like we're protected in those situations. Just glad nothing happened to us. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. So we got out of there. But the throwing of the dirt was interesting. I don't know if that's happened very often to other people, but you do hear about that.
Yep. Yeah, I've had a few guests on my show that have had it happen. Actually, one of them was they were in a VW van and camping, and I think it was gugwees that were throwing dirt at them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they left.
Yeah. Well, I've had, rocks thrown my way through trees and landing in the river and stuff where I've been standing, and I've had tree branches thrown at me too. So thankfully, I've never been hurt, but having just dirt thrown at me, I don't have any problem with that. So that was interesting. As we were escorted out of there, we weren't wanted, but that old kind of red hair, they seem to be a little more aggressive, at least from my understanding. Having the red-haired ones seem to be something more of that ancient DNA, and of course, we referenced possibly Aesop as being having that red hair. That maybe this is just a very ancient breed of these. Zana was red hair, very ancient breed of them.
And of course, you always hear the stories about the red-haired giants.
Yes, absolutely. So fascinating stuff. But yeah, Barry and I, we've been good friends for a lot of years, and I truly believe that this research that we're doing there, I don't do research around my home area anymore for some experiences that I had early on doing some gifting that draw attention to my home. And I don't do that anymore. So I do get out to see Barry and have fun with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it around my house either. Just, no. That's my second sighting was right on the yard of the house that I lived in. That was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, once you have, I don't know if we have time for me to go into that. That'll be another story sometime. But really, it brought me into the opportunity to go up and spend more time when I do my research up on the Omaha Rez, to spend more time and do Rez Squatching. And it really has been a great outlet for me to have that, because having them come to your home just is a game changer for you. And I was concerned about my dog. I was concerned about my own well-being. And it was quite a few years ago that happened. I was not ready for that. I was very naive when that started happening. And so I really did prayer. I didn't go into their woods anymore. I gave them space. They continued to come for a good year or so. And finally tapered off. And some of it might have been the building that they've been doing around this. They built houses and stuff more out where I live, but there was creeks that are kind of a water web out here where I live, and they were able to access my backyard through these woods that were just a small creek area that was not too far from my home, and somehow they knew where I lived. So that was eye-opening to me. I was within probably 2 feet of one at 10 o'clock at night in my own backyard, and my little rat terrier was just going crazy, barking at it. And I didn't realize it was there until I reached down to pick up my dog, and I saw the back of its foot as it stepped over the grapevines, this chain link fence that I had there. It stepped over that one step over this chain link fence, and I saw the back of its foot, and it was that brown kind of Osman pad.
Yeah.
And once I saw that, I was shocked, to say the least. But the amount of fear that was within me, knowing they were that close, because there had been other things jumping off my house. There was other stuff going on that had brought attention to that something's not right here. The smell in my backyard. Something jumped off my deck. My wife had seen things. There was scraping. I had a scrape along my window by my bedroom, right along where my head was sitting. It scraped for like 6 seconds. Wow. It was a long scrape. And then another time I had something that crawled under that windowsill, which was about 3 feet high, and it could barely fit underneath it. It just was like a broom sound underneath of it. This is like 5 a.m, and you have, your fenced in yard. What the hell's in your yard?
Yeah.
Well, it just kept happening. Slaps on the side of my house. I mean, a ton of things were happening. The grapevines were getting worn down on either side of this fence area where something was coming over the fence. It literally was killing the grapevines in certain areas. And then one night I was out there and I could hear, the classic, they say they do a belly crawl. Something was crawling through my neighbor's garden, and these leaves, like a belly crawl. It just sounded really disturbing. And I just grabbed my dog. I did like a mouth knock and a whistle to see if I'd get any interaction, and it just kept coming closer and closer.
Oh, God.
So I was like, I don't have anything out here with me. I don't have a flashlight, and my house light come this far out. So I better take my dog and get inside. And it was a learning experience for me. So going up to the Omaha Rez has been a great experience, and I can go out there and do this research. I still kind of am a risk taker, I guess, in that way. But, my experiences on the Omaha Rez has just been all positive. And we had Dr. Bertseff up there last year, and we a few years ago, Dr. Meldrum was there. So Barry's having interactions anytime he chooses to go out. He'll be interacting with them there. They come right into town. He's had them come up to the windows of his own home also. But he does talk to them and say, do not follow us back, or he tries to set boundaries with them in that way. So I was not able to do that, other than just totally avoid going back to the woods near my property. So I still take my dog for a walk. I still get into areas and I see structures, and my dog since he's a little puppy, I've had him around tree structures because, if I see something, I'm going to stop and check it out. He inadvertently, he was standing there with me and smelling this, and he's led me down some trails, and we've gotten into bigger tree structures. So and he stood next to me and looked and pointed in areas where he would get like behind me, and he's not afraid of anything. He's a French bulldog, but these obviously I've conditioned my dog to find these to smell the smell of them and to find them inadvertently too. So anyway, fascinating.
You got an actually trained Squatch hound. Very few people.
I do. He's my buddy, and he goes with me everywhere. But I think I inadvertently he could point them out without question. If we're walking on a trail and there's something going on, he would point them out. And I think that's another thing about the sea tonga, the Sasquatch, is that they will kill dogs. I think they don't necessarily eat them, but they may eat them. But I think if nothing else, they're killing them because they are in their way of getting food, or they are calling them out when they don't want to be, known by the people there. And I think Barry.
I think that's their main issue with dogs. To be honest with you, dogs bark at them and blow their cover. If the dogs weren't barking at them, they wouldn't care, because it seems like in some cases where there's quiet dogs, they actually get along with them. Yeah.
They actually, and there are some dogs that they've been found to pet them and interact.
Yeah, that's just hilarious. Well, I mean, Caveman's an example of that. His dogs weren't really barking at him, and he'd get up in the morning and the dogs would both be off their chains and the chains would be twined together. Well, you got to have fingers to do that.
Absolutely. So, and I think, dogs blow their cover, so they will unfortunately go after your dog. But in some situations, if they're not going to blow their cover, I think they're fine too. I've investigated houses on the res where the dogs just sat on the porch. They got scared. They want to come inside. But as long as there was deer around, a guy would be butchering deer, and there was plenty of deer carcasses around there. They didn't want anything to do with the dog. As long as the dog was quiet, they'll eat the deer carcass and take what they want and leave them. So, fascinating how these interactions can take place, and it's been great over the years.
Right on. Well, it sounds like you're about to lose your voice, brother. So maybe we should let you go at this point.
Yeah. It's a little dry here. Nebraska's entering into the dry season here in the fall. So I guess I carried on so much. Normally you're able to, have a little more things to say during these interviews. So I'm sorry.
But everybody's sick of hearing me anyway.
Are they? Well, hopefully they don't get tired of hearing me, but I just felt it was important to share this information, keep a history alive. And I came, like I said, come full circle here to get back with the Rez Squatching and get with my brothers there. That this is exciting times to be in this. I appreciate you having me on again, Duke.
I'm just lucky to have you on the show, man. I always appreciate it when you come on. It's always a pleasure and honor to have you here, and looking forward to having you back more in the future. I mean, this is one of the reasons that I'm doing the show, because I want for there to be a platform for people that are seriously out there getting evidence to be able to go and share it with everyone. And, that's what the show's all about. So it just, it just makes sense that I would want to have you on the show and want to have you back again.
Well, thank you. And I hope, I'm glad that we finally got Barry to do the show, because all these years we've done shows with Barry involved. So now it's good to get his side of this and to get him involved. So hopefully in the future, maybe both of us can interview all at once, but I think you've got a great show having him, getting him interviewed too. So that's a big part of my research, is being up with Rez Squatching. I have a lot of respect for my brothers up there, and I just got to give a shout out, ahoo, to everybody on the Omaha Rez.
Right on, brother. Yeah, it was great talking to him, and we had a wonderful conversation in addition to doing the interview with him. And I've been following his research for years now and stuff, so it was great to finally get a chance to talk to him. And apparently he liked me, because he invited me to come over there and go squatching with you guys in Nebraska.
He told me that, and I said, yes, we got to get Duke. We'll do We will treat you like royalty here on the Rez.
Awesome. Well, I definitely want to get over there and go squatching with you guys. And as you know, I gave you both the open invitation to come on over here for the next Top of the Continent expedition next summer.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have that that exchange going on next year, and we can be in each other's videos.
Yes. Co-starring, yes.
Not just a walk-on cameo role, but actually co-starring. That'd be really
yes. Cool. We got to have that billing.
All right, brother. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think we covered most of the things I wanted to kind of tie together. And then, we talked about, just a reminder to people to go and check out our merchandise. And you've got the coffee cups and the other stuff that I have on that Teespring to go to your, I think you'll probably have a link on this. And of course, on my website, you can go to my store. And I just encourage people, really, if you support the type of research that we're doing and support Duke of all the sharing all this, my research doesn't mean anything if nobody hears about it. So I think it's important to support people if you really believe in it. So I appreciate everybody that have been listening here, and I look forward to talking to you all again.
Right on, brother. Good thought. I heartily agree, encourage, and echo all of his sentiments. Time we've got a new guest that hasn't been on the show before. Many of you may already be aware of who this person is. He's got a group called Rez Squatching, and if you want to find him, you can do so on Facebook. They got the Rez Squatching group there, and Barry and his brother and some of their other members of their group do squatching around the reservation over in Nebraska, hence the name Rez Squatching. And so with that, welcome to the show, Barry Webster.
Duke, yeah, again, it's just an honor to be on your show, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man. Yeah, it's great having you here. I've been trying to catch up with you for a long time now, and since Zuckerberg decided to unperson me about a year and a half ago, I can't get a hold of anybody on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you think I unpersoned you or something, no, I didn't unfriend you. I got unpersoned. That's why I'm not on Facebook anymore, and you can't get a hold of me there. So there you go. I didn't unfriend anyone. But it's great to finally be in touch with you and have you on here so that we can do a show with you and talk about all the stuff you've been doing. Rich has told me lots of stories about the Bigfoot exploits that you guys have been through together. And I thought for the sake of the audience that may not know who you are, let's bring them up to speed on who is Barry Webster and how did you get involved in Bigfooting?
Well, again, I'm a member of the Omaha tribe of Nebraska. That's located in Macy, Nebraska. I'm happily married. I got 6 children. I don't know how many grandchildren I have now. I can't even keep count. But I love them to death. Rez Squatching, we're a I would say half and half, meaning we got non-natives and natives on the team. Consist of, if I had everybody there, I'd probably have about 12 people. Again, we're a native investigation team located on the Omaha reservation. Let me back up here. This started by a dare from my son. There was a lot of reports in the community, a lot of sightings in Walled Hill, Nebraska, and on the homelands here on the Omaha tribe. And so they were piling up. So my son one night said, "Dad, let's go check this out." And I took him up on it. And the rest has been history.
Did you always know that there was such a thing, or was there a certain point in your life when you found out it was fake?
Well, I've been on a couple podcasts, and a lot of this stuff is coming back to me as a young boy. Or even on the documentary on YouTube, I think I mentioned that a lot of us grow up knowing about Situnga before we know about Batman and Robin, and I made reference to that. So it's always been, I always hear folklore, but it's always been part of our culture and our at the time when I was younger, I thought it was a legendary myth. But after you hear it over and over and hear the stories as you get older, then then I could jump way ahead here, but you know, after you have encountered them, then it's real, obviously.
Well, yeah, at that point, there's no. Well, you can still try and convince yourself that you just saw a bear running around on its hind legs. Seems like a lot of people try and do that for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, and ain't no bears around here, that's for sure.
Now, that's speaking of that around here. Now, you're in Nebraska, and most people think of Nebraska as one of the Great Plains states, flat, featureless, and all that. And they don't realize that Nebraska has a gigantic amount of riverway there. And Bigfoot love to live around those rivers and use them for access ways, for their own little super highways to get around from point A to point B. So to me, it's not really that much of a surprise. But I think that catches a lot of people off guard.
Oh, I agree. I agree. In the summertime, I get a lot of reports, and what I love about the community here is everybody's bought in, everybody's a believer. I bet I get one or two reports a week of sightings.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I sort of get the same impression from caveman down there in the Navajo Nation that there's just a lot of this stuff going on, and it's kind of hard to live there and not believe that it's going on because there's so many reports.
Yeah.
So when did you get, how long ago was it you actively got involved in putting together this organization and going out all the time then?
I think after, I guess I was coaching at our high school, coaching girls volleyball. And we came across him one time in a field next to a timberline. So that was probably really sparked my interest. And I always knew that there was going to be this time where I just totally went full force, the impetus that caused me to do this. And I always knew in the back of my mind what I saw. And I saw it with our whole team. I think I had about 10 girls at the time with the janitor. And
Wow.
that sighting there, I always knew he was out there. And I always knew that someday I was going to do something to go investigate this further. And the community, and it was almost as if they were terrorizing the community, to be honest with you. And knowing me and just the pride I have, I wasn't going to allow that to happen. So I had to go. And if you know my brother Derek, he's always up for a challenge. So the Webster boys were on it, man.
So do you have, I know you're talking about getting reports and stuff from around there. What are they in general? Just random sightings? Are they harassing people's homes? Do you have reports of them ever attacking people? What kind of stuff do you get usually?
I think majority of what I get is just, maybe the dogs are going crazy. And they don't normally, that's not my dog's normal behavior. Then either the dog gets hit or they're running back trying to get into the house. And then there's always maybe a holler, or people just see them in a field somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah, and that seems to be really universal, that for the most part, they don't seem to get along with dogs very well unless they're like really quiet dogs. Any dogs that make a racket when they're around seem to be on their hit list for the most part.
Yeah. I think they just get annoyed by them, just based on my experience.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same thing they do to bears too. Bears aren't really afraid of dogs. They hate the noise. And if there's a big pack of them, they get nipped by them. But, it's just the noise that chiefly bugs them. That's why bears will run away from dogs too. You're loud, noisy. I hate it.
Yeah.
So what do you think is, I know you've had so many experiences. What do you think is the scariest one you had?
Boy, let's see. I just wrote on my page about this whistle that came from the south, and as I tell you that, I know it may seem like without really understanding or being there, that one was kind of what I call bone chilling, because it was windy out, kind of cold, but then just the smoothness, the loudness just pierced your body. And I remember my flight went off, man, and so that was I got to put that one up there. But I think let's see, what was my scariest encounter? Um, I would have to say the only time I felt threatened was when it did the Stevie Wonder. He postured and his head was doing like a figure eight. And, I actually just started to pray. In fact, that's what I was starting to do. Then he stepped out. Then the female, real interesting behavior. She rubbed her back up against him, rested her head on his shoulder while he was posturing with his arms out. And
Was that the one that was doing the bodybuilder pose with his arms down, flexing?
yeah, the figure eight.
Yeah.
I always refer that to to Stevie Wonder. Nothing intended there. Just the head movement was very interesting.
I know what you're saying there, and usually when you hear reports of them being indecisive, it'll be like they're standing behind a tree and they start swaying back and forth. But they do that with their whole body. If he's just moving his head around, that is unusual, and I'd get a little concerned about that.
Yeah, he came out and I don't know if you allow me to cuss a little bit, and then I apologize.
Don't worry about it.
He came out and it was almost as if he was saying, "What the F do you want?" And I've heard about you. It was intimidating, but
yeah, I bet.
yeah, I just put my head down, but he is really trying to intimidate me with his eyes and the posturing. But for some reason, I'm always really calm, and I think that's just maybe God protecting me. And so I called my brother over. I think my brother might have been shaken up. Okay, so for about 4, maybe 5 minutes, I kind of got lost, or I should say the Holy Spirit kind of took over. And as I started to get in the middle, I would say his head started to really go shallow with his figure eight, almost as if he appreciated the prayer. Like, wow, dude, you really do pray for us. It was really weird, the message I was getting, almost like telepathically. Yeah, you have to be there, to really understand that. And the female, she really like leaned back on him, and then it was almost as she was saying, "Relax, he's just praying for us, because I've never encountered these guys before." So that was, I don't know. I don't know how to describe that. I'm tired of saying amazing,
Need new superlatives. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. That's a really, even an ordinary encounter, but to have two of them come out and then have all that kind of weird posturing and everything, that'd be like fairly mind blowing.
Yeah.
Is it one that you've seen again subsequent to that?
No, I haven't seen him. And in fact, when I bring people out, I'll ask him to come out. I'll actually do his posture and do the figure eight with my head and ask him to come out. So I'd like to meet you again. Haven't had that lately. However, in that area, I do interact with the juvenile. But to get back to your question, that as I reflect back on it, it almost I just can't believe, no matter how many encounters I've had, I honestly cannot believe they happen sometimes. Sometimes if I'm traveling, sometimes I'll just look at my wife and say, man, and I just have to maybe pinch myself or say, wow, man, I just couldn't believe that encounter I had, and she just don't know what to do. I guess I just reflect on it and go, wow, I wonder if anybody else is having this, man. you know?
Yeah. Well, I think there's some people that have had multiple encounters. It's merciful that they can't remember them all at the same time, because it might be a lot too much to think about if they could remember all of them at once.
Boy, you kidding?
I don't think you ever get used to seeing them or being around them. And the other thing is, if you've had enough experiences, sometimes you forget about ones that you've had. Like one that comes to mind here, that if I was in your position and having heard some of the stories of stuff that's happened to you, I would think that one nighttime when you were down by the river and that one came and bluff charged you up out of the river would have been pretty high on the list.
Yeah, even before that, I think there was a video of one swinging, and I think BFRO actually showed that video, or somebody did. And that is actually what we experienced before one bluff charged us from the river. Man, I can't even keep track of all these stories, so I'm glad you brought that one up.
See, I haven't even had you on the show, and I already know some of your stories.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Rich keeps us up to date on everything that's happening over there with you guys. He also told us about when you guys were out with Igor, and there was one right in front of you that was basically cloaked, and Rich couldn't see it, and you told him to come forward, and when he got right next to you and looked up, then he could see the upper part of it.
Yeah, the handshake.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Tell everybody that story.
Well, I don't even think that's our best one, Anyway, that one, and that one probably already happened 2 months ago, even before we set out to do this. That was the quest, or the objective. And the reason why I say that one already happened, because, I prayed about it, and it was almost as if they were saying, all right, come on out. Sometimes, and this is weird, I don't claim to be a medium. I don't go there. However, I do respect people if that's what they can do, and that's their gift. But, that one I knew was going to happen. And I didn't tell the team yet. They just said, wow, we're going to and I don't want to give out the name of the location, but they just almost said, no, I don't feel like going, but I challenged all of them. I said, if I'm going to do this, I need everybody there. So they all, stood up to the challenge. And it was interesting, because when I asked them, my body started to hurt, and I couldn't tell where. It was the energy, and all of a sudden it appeared, and he was brown, and it was almost as he was, if when I recognized his face, he must have been at least 9 foot tall, and he almost seemed happy. And what was the team tells the story, but I remember my body really starting to feel pressure. Everybody was behind me. And yeah, I haven't really shared this, but Igor actually got sick. And for a moment there, I panicked. I said, hey, somebody check on Igor. He was standing here with me. Now he's gone. And Sister Linda said, he's back here. He's hurting. Something's wrong, Barry. I said, is he okay? I said, I almost, I literally thought, man, Igor, I hope you don't kick the bucket here, man. They'll be having an investigation. These natives killed Igor,
Oh, God. Yeah, I could see it happening. Well, what do you think happened? Do you think he got zapped?
I do. There was such an energy towards me that I think it took Igor out. We had to literally, after, everything happened, I'll get back to some of the details, but we had to actually stay there for about 15 minutes just to let Igor kind of regain his consciousness or whatever he was, feeling. getting back to the story, there was a young gentleman, one of the young locals who was up there too, and I really thanked him because at one point I remember saying, "Hey, you guys, I can't continue this." I said, "My body's hurting. So has everybody seen this?" And he reached over and grabbed me. He says, "Barry, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay, man, but I don't think I could withstand this anymore." But getting back to the details, and I first asked if everybody's seen it, and Rich, I remember hearing Rich say, "Yeah, I see it, bro." And I actually reached up with one hand and put my finger by his face as it was cloaked, and I kept blinking, thinking, "Wow, is this gonna disappear?" And as it stood there, I said, "Well," I said, "are you ready to shake my hand?" I said, "I know I asked you." And all of a sudden, it was almost real. It didn't have what I would call human movement. It was almost like I could see the outline. I could see a light brown. I could actually see the hand part. His hand had to be at least, I don't know, it had to be, man, 13, 14 inches, in
Jeez.
lengthwise.
Yeah.
And it actually started coming towards my stomach. And I said, in my mind, I thought, "Oh my God, this thing's coming towards me. He's going to shake my hand," after I asked him. And just because I asked for it, I literally had to reach out and stop his hand. And I couldn't feel him, but what I did see was that his hand engaged mine, and I couldn't feel him though. But as I did four handshakes up and down, we were clenched. We were, our hands grasped each other, and it went in rhythm with mine. And right there, I knew something very special had happened. That wasn't me, man. that was God making that happen, man, in front of my team.
Wow. That would be so weird. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys have seen lots of examples of this sort of stuff. And the other thing, of course, is that you gather the physical evidence. And, one of the things, of course, Rich is interested in is the tree structures. And you guys find plenty of that stuff over there, too, right?
Oh yeah. That's almost a gimme. And I told her, I do Facebook Live. I find I get a kick out of that, and I know the members on my page love that. And I made a comment one time. I said, I said, tracks or prints ain't a big deal. Those are a dime a dozen. Sometimes we'll come across one and we'll just say, "Hey, get that later." That we find that anywhere.
Yeah.
And people just, I know Bigfoot Odyssey, Kerry freaked out when he saw one, and he was ready to cast it. He asked if we were going to cast it, and I say, "Hey, man, we'll get that later. That's dime a dozen, man."
Sort of the same reaction we have. We don't even bother to cast them because you can find them so easy.
Yeah.
The last time we did an afternoon hunt for tracks, we spent like 2.5 hours, and I think we got 15 tracks and 2 knuckle prints. And, it was all spread all over the place. It wasn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you can find them, it's no big deal. And I'd never bothered to cast one, especially because most of the time out here, the ground's too dry and hard. So it doesn't really leave anything. That's if it is castable, you generally won't get dermal ridges or anything. So it's like me.
Yeah. Well, the same way, I don't find it a real big deal. I don't know why,
I like to document them because, drives the skeptards crazy. But other than that,
Yeah.
you get some basic information. How big is the foot and how long is the step length? Well, let's make a chart and get an average step length depending on size of foot. But other than that, I don't know.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, yeah. So how often do you guys go out?
Well, I would say almost 11 years. Well, yeah, we're going on. I don't know how close we are. We just had our 10th anniversary, and I would say on average, if you let me, I would probably go out 5 times a week if my wife would allow.
Well, we know that ain't gonna happen. So how often does it? How often do you actually get out there? Like weekly or a couple times a week or?
Yeah, probably if I get a report and people are just flat out scared and they actually ask me to come out there and sometimes I pray and I talk to them again, I don't know what I call it damage control or people actually look for me to do that now and I'm happy to do that. But I would say probably 2 times a week on average.
That's a lot. So you're out there in the field at least 100 times a year. For
Yeah.
that often over 10 years, that's 1,000 times in the field. That's lots of experience.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll get you up to speed on what's going on there. So, do you guys generally have pretty good interactions with Satanga there where you're at? I know part of it is in various locations, and then there's the one area that one of your relatives owns that you call Camp Hard Knocks that you go to pretty often. And it sounds like they're almost like kind of aggressive there sometimes. What's your take on that?
Yeah. Hard Knocks. I would say this: if I was in it for the money, I would I would charge like crazy for Hard Knocks. That is a special place.
They're just around there and really active all the time.
Yeah, they I think there's other things in there. I think there's spirits in there also, but for the most part, when we set up camp in there, man, they just get really aggressive. Now I don't know that if it's directed towards me in particular, but usually I have, I'll bring some friends out or we've done a couple expeditions in there. And they get pretty aggressive, man. We've probably had, and I was told this one time that we had 4 of the loudest ever recorded wood knocks. I mean, these things sound like guns going off. just like it was incredible. Actually, we got it on SoundCloud. Rich got everything.
Yeah, we've actually played that audio recording on my show before.
Is that right?
Yep.
I'll be darned. Yeah, that even that did no justice to how the impact it really had. That was just. I actually had to wake the groups up and say, "Get up! I've never heard 4 times like that before." They may knock a tree over on us, so I woke everybody up and said, "Turn your lights on, man. We gotta let this guy know that he's not gonna." Disrupt what we're doing. We had to take a stand against him.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty aggressive. I've heard some other reports. Somebody that I know here was up in the oh God, I can't even think of the name of the mountain range. Anyway, it's a place he camped a few times, and he brought his friends up there, and for whatever reason, the one that was around there was not having it. And they literally had to abandon camp and leave in the middle of the night, come back the next day and pack their stuff up.
Wow.
And these guys are like lumberjacks, so they're not wimps.
Wow. I hear you.
Yeah, they were getting seriously persuaded that in between the roaring and the snapping branches, and if I remember right, it grabbed one of them's tent and drug it a little ways too. Being very insistent.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. When they tell you it's time to leave, it's kind of time to leave, I mean, unless you're going to put up a united front and start praying like crazy or something. Sometimes I think when they want you to leave, you just probably should leave.
Yeah.
Best not come into conflict with